Almost 5 years ago at this point, I bought a Banksy art piece. I lit it on fire, sold it as an NFT, and broke every record for NFTs at the time. Since then, we raised about $36 million. We bought the original piece for $90,000 and we sold it for about $400,000. The piece was called Morons, and it depicts an English auction house and says, "I can't believe you morons actually buy this shit."
Even my mom heard about it. So today when I told her that, I'm interviewing you, she was very excited. When you burnt the Banksy, it was very much in the ethos of what crypto used to be, in a way where it was a lot about rebellion, it was a lot about culture, and now you've kind of transformed a lot, and now you're working with like these big established legitimate Web2 brands. So how was that transition for you internally? Like, how did you kind of reconcile that? There are some benefits that come with being anonymous, where you can kind of do some unhinged things and get away with it.
I lit myself on fire when we celebrated our Series A. I wanted to make a dating application for people who had over $250,000 in their bank account. That's stupid and funny to me.
Builders who've never kind of taken a reputational risk.
Fuck reputation. Reputation is what stops people from actually reaching their, like, a huge potential.
Let's get started with a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Cool. So, as said, my name is Burnt Banksy. I got that name because about almost 5 years ago at this point, I bought a Banksy art piece. I lit it on fire, sold it as an NFT, and broke every record for NFTs at the time. And then since then, we raised about $36 million to pretty much verify anything on the internet. And that's through XION.
That's amazing. I have to say, I know in 2021 that really went viral when you burnt the banks. Even my mom heard about it. So today when I told her that, I'm interviewing you, she was very excited.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. But, I kind of want to deep dive a little bit more into that. What gave you the idea to burn the Banksy? And I know at the time you kind of did it anonymously.
Yep.
And what was like the story behind it? How did it even happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. So how did the idea come to me? It was, kind of this amalgamation of like being pretty pissed off, I would probably say, and a few other things, and then just kind of right place, right time. But, I was buying NFTs quite often, CryptoKitties, CryptoPunks, back when like punks was a normal thing because they were so cheap. And, a lot of people made fun of me like with this new idea of like digital art. And they said, if it's not real, it's not real. I can't put it in my living room. I can't touch it. So it's not real. Yeah. Okay. Let me take something that has, let's say, real value to it. Let me light it on fire, turn it into an NFT, digitalize it, and we'll see if the value holds. And, we bought the original piece for $90,000 and we sold it for about $400,000. And so, we think it was quite a bit of a success. Glad that your mom heard about it too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Was there a reason why you picked that particular art piece?
Very, very, yeah, that's a good question. Very, very particularly well picked. It was, a lot of it was, the piece was called Morons, and it depicts an English auction house and says, "I can't believe you morons actually buy this shit." And then kind of in Banksy style, like lighting it on fire, he's destroyed his own work before. And, even down to the anonymity of things, like a lot of that was an homage to Banksy. But the piece specifically, Morons, was kind of this knock to this English auction house. And me taking that and saying, digitalizing that and then saying, "Well, I can't believe you morons actually buy this shit," was why that exact piece was the exact piece that we picked.
I love it. So, what do you think? What is it about like art or maybe value or, power by these auction houses that you kind of understood back then that most people still don't understand, you think?
I mean, I think that, you actually saw NFTs take a huge rise after that, right? And I think that for the first time, digital art was seen as a legitimate thing. I think Banksy, Banksy even had it was very funny. Banksy's next was the first ever, I think Christie's auction ever denominated in Ethereum, which was very funny. But you think the Beeple $69 million auction happened about a month after the Burnt Banksy thing. Very, very much legitimizing that. And I think even to this day, you still have like Christie's, Sotheby's having digital art houses. And, the thesis, I think, has held up until this point at the very least. But, we'll see where it goes from here, I guess.
No, absolutely. And then what happened after that? So obviously you went viral. There was also a lot of backlash, I'm sure. So, what was that like for you to suddenly go viral? Do you feel like it opened a lot of doors? Do you feel like it closed doors? Do you feel like people had these preconceived notions about you? What happened after?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing was like being anonymous was definitely different in that scenario, right? Like, I think that the character of Burnt Banksy was definitely created, and I would say it definitely opened more doors than it closed. You know, if anything, people wanted to even ask me something, even if they hated what I had to say. Which was really cool. And then even in founding what is now XION, that was a big part of the original notion of it was, hey, this, I've am probably the most talked about person in crypto today, which back then was really not that many people. I was the most talked about person in crypto, and I believe that, there's a lot to be done in this industry. And so, effectively that opened a lot of doors. That kind of created what is now XION, opened the doors to fundraising, etc. And even to this day, like I was interviewing someone and to join, and they're like, well, we don't burn art. And I was like, well, actually, it wasn't really destroying it. So it's very cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you feel like, obviously what you did was pretty controversial in a way or pretty out there. So do you feel like builders who've never kind of taken a reputational risk, because it could have gone either way, do you feel like they are kind of at a disadvantage?
I mean, I didn't really take a reputational risk, right? I mean, if anything, like it was fully anonymous. My name was Burnt Banksy. Like there wasn't any reputation to risk, and I think that's like an interesting part about it too, which is like I think so many people are afraid of the reputational risk that you don't end up doing something that's crazy and stupid. And I think that like a big part of the anonymity and the big part of like what we should really strive for is fuck reputation, right? Like just try to, and it's easier said than done, of course, but I think especially as you start getting more and more into the real world, reputation gets significantly more important. But even being anonymous, like my reputation was my actions and the things that I did, and I respect that notion. But I don't think that a lot of people effectively recognize that. But I do think that reputation is what stops people from actually reaching their like a huge potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what kind of prompted you to reveal your identity?
It was definitely over time, like probably like 2 years until I really like I was wearing masks when talking. Like I was very, very fully anonymous. It was a slow burn, right? Like I was meeting more people in crypto. Like I'd get off stage and I'd take my mask off and be like, hey, I would still be Anthony.
Yeah.
And it got like really lame at some points to be like, I'm Burnt Banksy. They're like, no, what's your name? And I'm like, Burnt Banksy. It just felt lame. And like, I think there was a certain part of like being anonymous that was, pretty egotistical, which was, who am I to be so much better than anyone else is to like reveal my identity? And like, I'm really a really nobody, right? Like, I'm just a guy in Manhattan, and so there was like that aspect. But then it's like, as you start to build more and more into Web 2, people do unfortunately still require trust, right? They require to see the face, Uber doesn't want to work with a Burnt Banksy. They want to work with an Anthony Anzalone that can sign a legal contract. And that's just kind of the nature of the world. So it was slowly, and then at this point, it's kind of gone. Everyone knows my face and my name now.
No, no, but I still think it's like a really cool story and obviously a really, really cool origin as
Thank you.
well. Yeah. And so, what is Zion? Like, what did you start out to do with Zion and what do you guys do?
Yeah, it's a very good question. XION, we started right immediately after the Burnt Banksy auction because this is, 2021. Crypto is as unusable could be, and no one really understood the nature of crypto or like what's the goal of it. And so what we effectively sat down and we said was like, hey, we need to make this usable. So we spent about 4 years building a layer 1 blockchain to effectively mimic Web 2 in the front end and have Web 3 in the back end, and then provide the value of verification to people, right? Whether that be verification that money is what it is, whether that's the art is the ownership of art, whether that just be arbitrary internet data like how many miles you've ridden on Uber. I think that crypto's overall ethos is effectively trust through verification. And I think bringing that one step further and saying, the goal of everything here is to, like, for the crypto audience, I would say make crypto usable. But if you don't know what that means for regular people, it's just believing what you see on the internet.
Got it. Interesting. And how are you working with Web2 brands now? Like, I know you mentioned a little bit, but I know, you're working with some very huge names like Lego, and I saw a bunch of other ones. So, what are you exactly doing with all of these different brands?
Yeah, I mean, tons of different stuff. We have about 150 brands that we work with such a thriving ecosystem. A lot of the brands that we work with are pretty bespoke. But it all pretty much, like, if you want to ask, like, for the Web2 stuff, it all pretty much is, revolves around verification, right? So the example that I typically give is how we work with Uber, which we're able to verify arbitrary internet data. So we can actually verify, if how many rides user has taken on Lyft, and we have budget from Uber to effectively pay that person to swap over to Uber. And so the way that we kind of sit in there is being able to facilitate the payments, right? Because you can't really send $5 to everyone in the world without crypto. And then also doing that verification infrastructure, right? Like being able to provide that information.
So interesting. And I know that you guys talk about this a lot, but it's basically, at what point did you realize that XION is not competing with other L1s, but competing with habits?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question, actually. I would say that, like, there's a few things in my mind. Like, I think crypto is just so small. Even in the beginning, I didn't think we were really competing with anyone, because the industry is so small. It's so focused on finance as well, and that was just an area that we really didn't want to play in. Like, I think that there are clear winners that are being set there, and I think that there are new business lines in crypto that just effectively need to be created. So kind of with that being said, that was like my original take. But then it was, as we started to make crypto disappear and we started to like kind of lead into more of a verification narrative, it's kind of traditional thought that we had to like back into that and kind of fight against, right? Like the same reason I went from Burnt Banksy to Anthony Anzalone is the same reason that like we had struggles with trying to bring crypto to the mainstream while still mentioning crypto. So being able to kind of like find our beachhead, which is verification, and then go full blast into that, that's a great question, but that's kind of the transition, I would say.
So interesting. I feel like generally with you, obviously in 2021, or when you burnt the Banksy, it was very much in the ethos of what crypto used to be, in a way where it was a lot about rebellion, it was a lot about culture. And now you've kind of, transformed a lot, and now you're working with like these big, established, legitimate Web2 brands. So how was that transition for you internally? Like, how did you kind of reconcile that? And what is your actual, personality, you think? Does it lean more towards that rebellious crypto kid,
Yeah,
or
oh my
is it
god,
the
yeah. Yeah, no, it's
really?
like it was so funny. Like I was on a podcast like maybe like a year ago, and I was wearing like a sweater and like white pants, and I was like, yeah, I guess like I'm definitely not this person. And
Yeah.
like people are like, oh, you're more like Anthony Anzalone or Burnt Banksy, and it's just like, oh, definitely Burnt Banksy. And it's like, why don't like my alt account would be Anthony Anzalone. Like you look at my LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn is effectively like my alt account where I have ChatGPT writing everything for me.
So, do you have any crazy stories from when you were anonymous, or back from kind of your NFT days? Like, obviously, because there are some benefits that come with being anonymous, where you can kind of do some unhinged things and get away with it.
Oh my god! I mean, aside from the Burnt Banksy things, there were like some unhinged things that I did. I mean, there were just so many. It was like every time that I would go, because I was actually a very early Solana builder, and it was so funny because I would go to Solana hacker houses everywhere across the world, and I would always light something on fire, like whether it be someone's shoes, someone's like there was always something that was to be lit on fire, and like that was a fun thing. And then it just got to a point where like someone would just always give me something to light on fire, and I was just now the fucking arsonist of the group.
Is there some correlation with you and fire, or it was just because you burnt the Banksy?
It was no. I've come to realize that there's like, because I also lit myself on fire.
What?
Yeah, that was fun. That went like a little under the radar, but yeah, I lit myself on fire when we celebrated our Series A, and I remember like I was on an AMA Tensor team, and I was like, well, we all love setting things on fire, right? And they're like, no, that is quite literally just a you thing, and I was like, cool, I may genuinely just be like a little bit of an arsonist, and that's okay. Um, that's okay. And so that's kind of yeah, I think that's more of a me thing.
Okay, I have to know, or like, I can't. How does one light themselves on fire? Like,
Safely.
what is the process?
So we effectively oh my god, the way I had a fire guy. It was the effectively the guy. He also worked for Kanye West and Game of Thrones. Love saying that I have a fire guy, by the way. It's really freaking cool. Um, and then so got that set up. That was like it was a whole thing. We rented out a warehouse in Brooklyn. The way that it like logistically worked was we put what was it? It was one layer of fire retardant suit. It was then they took like panther felt, which is effectively like what welders use, like the thing that a welder uses, and then dip that in like this fire retardant gel, and we then duct taped that around me, put another fire retardant suit on me, and then put like then painted that in the same like gel. Then we put we regular clothes on me. So I wore like three hoodies, and the last hoodie we put gasoline on it, and the pants we put gasoline on that. And so there were two different types of gasoline. There was a liquid and then a spray. One of them lasts like instantly, and then
Oh my
one of
God.
them like lasts the amount of time that you're walking. And as long as you're like walking straight, you're actually kind of fine, because the fire is just behind you. And what I did was like I had to get this great photo op, so I came and I went like this. You can't see. Let's just truncate that with the. But I went like that with the in front of the XION sign, and I remember I burnt a little bit of my eyebrow off.
No way.
But it was great.
What?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Like I had to get the shot.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that has to be the craziest thing I've ever heard.
So yeah, I guess lighting things slash myself slash art on fire is unfortunately my thing.
Yeah. But I think this is what I miss about crypto. I feel like in even in like 2020, 2021, 2022, I feel like the kind of people it attracted were people who had so much personality, and now it's I don't know if you feel the change, but I definitely do.
So different now.
Yeah.
So
Do,
different now.
do you miss those days?
Totally. I mean, it was the Wild West. Like it was just the Wild West out there. And like, you know, I think you actually saw like the most innovation coming at that point. Like you look at AI, like pretty similar like comparisons can be made to AI. But it was like I think the reason now that you're not really seeing these personalities is because you're also not really seeing anything new. And I think the things that you are seeing that are like older are just the same thing copy and pasted with a different formula, which doesn't it's not really indicative to innovation. Like innovation is there's a lot of money flying around, people are just trying to do whatever and trying to get as much attention as possible, which is like AI, right? Like that really is AI. But it's just for some reason in crypto, like we haven't had a lot of great innovation, a lot of new products that actually succeeded in like 10 years. And I think that was when a lot of this stuff was exciting. But now it's just like it's pretty boring.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel the difference even in conferences, and now everything just feels so copy paste.
Yeah, I mean, it was like you go to a conference and there were like four side events that were like really cool, but then you go to one now and there were like 4,000, and just got to a point where they were just it was just completely unattainable to just go to anymore.
Yeah. Do you feel like the culture's just been absorbed, or do you feel like we're kind of in this space where kind of in limbo because nothing's really working, but then eventually it's going to come back?
I think limbo is probably the correct answer to that. Where, I think there is the potential to have a lot of money coming back into the space, especially with like AI and everything that's going on over there. And I think that once you start seeing like killer applications and then new verticals starting to be formed, I think it's going to be another pretty interesting use case. Like we've effectively only had DeFi up until this point, and then just different flavors of that. And I think that once people can see past DeFi and look at different verticals within the industry, I think then you start seeing like a proliferation of capital.
Yeah. What about NFTs? Because I know you were super, super involved in the NFT space. Like, what do you think was the reason? Obviously, there was like a huge NFT mania and then it went down. Do you feel like it's ever going to come back in any shape, form?
I don't think the NFT mania will come back in the same shape. Like I hope we don't use the word NFT anymore. Realistically, any of this shit's just a digital asset. And you have some success with that. Like you have pudgy penguins being in Walmart. Like you have some pretty great success stories with that. The unfortunate case is like it's digital art. Like it should just be digital art. Using the example as like digital music tickets, going to a concert, like that's really all that it should be. It doesn't matter if it's fungible or not. And that was just like pretty reliant on speculation and things like that. But you always kind of have these like new proliferations of like speculative asset classes. 2017 was the ICO. 2021 was the NFTs, and then you got meme coins. Realistically, now you're probably seeing prediction markets coming out to be that next like front runner of speculative assets. And like obviously, like it's speculation, but you're gonna see like prediction markets go the way of like NFT marketplaces. Let's call it.
Yeah, makes sense. And then when it comes to XION, obviously you talked about how you're working a lot around verification. And so right now, do you feel like the internet or the world is like an untrustworthy place? Or
Yeah, like I mean, even the internet, right? Like, I mean, you don't know if this is an AI generated video. You don't really know anything on the internet, and I think that like the idea of crypto kind of came about, which is, hey, we can't trust that our money is money because of post 2008, and I think that like money is probably the first aspect of like I just don't think that people are really used to it or like the internet's been around for so long and it's been a cesspool and like early criticisms about the internet being too much information were kind of just like band-aid solution via Google and like just kind of informational gathering. But you know I think that like if we're in real life and I could say like, hey, this is a poker chip with the XION logo on it, you could probably believe that, right? And I think that you operate differently in real life than you do in a digital world. And I don't think we've seen a digital world that is fully trustworthy is a different definition, but like the reason you had NFTs being so big in the beginning was because you could see that someone owned this thing, and then it was like a digital flex to own a Bored Ape Yacht Club because it was like $400,000, and more people saw your Twitter profile than saw your living room, right? So like that would be your main point of flexing, and the reason is because you could verify that, like. So like I don't think people like look at the internet and they're like, oh, I can't trust this. I don't think that people have really seen what the potential unlocks yet.
do you think there's a group of people who actually benefit from the internet being untrustworthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like yes and no. Like, I think you start to see like a pendulum effect. Let's just call it with like traditional media, which is like traditional media. Even the FDA, like you're seeing a huge rise in like peptides, which is super interesting, especially amongst the, like self-sovereign crypto community. And like a lot of that is just you effectively borrow trust, and any aspect that chips away from that really hurts, right? So if like the FDA was able to like if you're able to trust the information that you see on the internet, the FDA would pretty much thrive. But everything is like, a self-sovereign person having an experience is anecdotal data. But if you have 30 self-sovereign anecdotal data points, that's effectively just like that's a case study, right? Or a sample size, right? And so I think that both the people who benefit would be kind of the main institutions, but also the people who would also lose a lot would be the main institutions, right? Because it would just kind of differ the jobs that people were doing.
And do you feel like, with all the bots and things like that, do you feel like they're genuinely hard to eliminate from the internet, or do you think they exist because people are profiting?
I don't think that, like, I don't think AI is a bad thing, right? I don't think bots are a bad thing. And I look at like the lens of I look at the lens of a lot of these bots as like photography in an art world, right? And I think that like when photography was effectively first coming to fruition, it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just like a new form that needed its own medium to effectively discern if it was good or bad. Right? They can exist together, and I think they should exist together. And I do think that like photography is a very legitimate art form, but I think that like using the medium of like creating this new medium to look at through the lens of, I think is very, very important. And I don't think that one exists without the other.
Do you feel like in general, especially when it comes to crypto Twitter now that people are very anti-bots, do you feel like that was like a net negative?
I don't know. Like people aren't anti bots. Like people love
Do you think
attention.
so?
Everyone loves attention. Like call it what it is. Everyone loves attention, and I
That's
think
fair.
that like right like and I think that there's like some really annoying things where you can like look at it and be like, I'll post something and I'll be like clearly shit posting and be like, wow, this is so thoughtful. And I was like, cool, like don't, and there's like a fucking M dash in there. Like don't use a bot on me. Like that's not genuine, right? Like that's not a genuine attention thing.
Yeah.
But like most projects got their start, like especially in the 2021, 2022, 2023 cycle, like everyone was using Galaxy to get badges because of like an airdrop. Like everyone was airdrop like fishing, let's call it. And so to get airdrop farmers, like why are you mad about that? Like this is exactly what you wanted. You wanted your engagement to be boosted. You got a boosted engagement. So why are you now upset that your engagement is boosted, right? Like there's a lot of projects out there that aren't really like succumb to bots because they don't put themselves in the situation where they need to be. And I think that it's like perhaps a double-edged sword, but it's like, hey, if you're not attracting 200,000 random bots, you're not going to get 200,000 random bots.
That makes sense. But again, I think in crypto, you're incentivized to use bots because
You
at the
are.
end of the day, exchanges look at as much of it as it is a
Wallets
one-way
and
network.
transactions, of course. Like it really is like, and I think that was like something that we tried to do differently with our testnet was we did, with kind of the account abstraction on the protocol level, everything needed 2FA. And so we were able to have kind of like verified and unverified wallets didn't really exist, but like every wallet was effectively verified. And then the more social connections that you had to that, the stronger your verification score was. And so that's kind of how we started to measure a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, I think that like, even as you engage in crypto Twitter though, like I think that a lot of trading is going to be happening through AI bots. Like I just spent my day yesterday setting up Claudebot, and it's like it's pretty cool, right? Like being able to engage on the internet and engage in financial transactions through AI, like that's a bot doing that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a genuine nature to some things, and I think that like once we kind of figure out the middle ground there, I think that's kind of where my viewpoint is.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. And so now for you, what's next at XION? What are you excited about?
Yeah. I mean, right now we have a verification product that we're pushing pretty hard. We're pushing a verification product. We're pushing new stablecoin out pretty soon. New ZK module. Pretty much a lot of work that's being pushed out right now in the sense of just providing the backbone infrastructure for a lot of these Web2 companies to kind of thrive. And, we have a couple projects that are launching as well, which are more kind of crypto native, really cool game. NOS is launching, which is one of our flagship products. But then also being able to work directly with Web2 brands as opposed to like a B2B to B strategy, just going kind of B2B, is something that's probably our main focus. And then deeming that kind of capital back into the token value is going to be our next incentive.
Interesting. Is there any Web 2 or like in general, like a use case that you haven't experimented with yet, but you really want to? What's that?
We actually have a ton. I mean, there's a bunch of really cool ones. Like I wanted to make a dating application for people who had over $250,000 in their bank account. You know, that's stupid and funny to me. I wanted to. I want to have a group chat of the top like 1% Taylor Swift fans in the world, like being able
Oh
to
my
discover,
God, I would love that.
right? Like being able to
Yeah.
discover people around you based off of music is probably like a really cool thing. But like there's some really boring parts that like, business is business, which is like, hey, right now it costs about $3 to do a credit check. And we can kind of do that for free without hurting someone's credit score. And so being able to provide that to businesses is something that's pretty important. There's a lot of things like that are like unsexy, but there's a lot of money to be made. So like, I think striving the balance of like making revenue as a company and then doing stupid shit, I think is like where we hopefully thrive in that.
No, I love that. And is there anything in crypto that you're particularly excited for 2026?
No, not really. No, I mean, I'm excited for a lot of these scams to die. Like, we're in a bear market. People are going to die. And that's good. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see the announcements of like, hey, we're sunsetting this. And it's like, cool, you haven't had a user in 4 years. Pretty excited for that. And then excited for just legitimate projects to kind of start getting their footing again. It's exciting.
Yeah, makes sense. That was all. So thank you so much for coming, and
Cool.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tanya.
Thank you for listening to Off the Record. If you like this episode, like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps the podcast grow. You can find more episodes wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.